And right now we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick here with Katie Greifeld, taking you through to that closing bell with a global simulcast. It starts now. Carol Massar there, scrunching up her face. Tim Stenovec without a tie. Welcome to our audiences
here. It
across
scrunches.
all of our audiences across all of our platforms, including Carol Massar, our partnership with YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. Across all our platforms. You know, I've been keeping an eye on pharmaceuticals, man. They are on a tear for a second day. The group is up about 5%. A little while ago, we did see Politico reporting that the president is delaying pharma tariffs to negotiate those drug prices. So this is a White House official commenting to Politico. But it just continues the narrative and what we saw with the Pfizer CEO at the White House yesterday.
And I just want to point out, too, just over the last few minutes, we did see a spike in GoodRx as well, up about 20%. That appears to be based on an interview that the CEO is giving on another network, but we'll keep an eye on that as well.
Hey, I'm watching what's happening in the equity market, but I think the bigger picture is what's happening in the bond market, Katie. I'm not going to steal Romaine's thunder here and talk totally about yields, but they're down across the curve. And the reaction to the ADP data that we got, we don't always see markets react to ADP, but that ADP might be the only payrolls data that we get this week.
Well, that's the thing. Romaine and I, were talking about this yesterday, that you think about ADP and NFP. You're not supposed to trade ADP because the correlation is fuzzy there, but that might be all traders get this week. So clearly, as you say, the bond market reflecting that.
Yeah, and this, of course, puts back into the spotlight, I think, not so much what we get from the private data, but more importantly, probably what we hear from corporations, particularly as we head into the earnings season in a couple of weeks if the shutdown does indeed drag on. Nevertheless, you take a look at the closing bells here in New York. It is green across the screen for almost all of the major indices and averages here in this great United States of America. The Dow Jones Industrial Average only fractionally higher, about 0.1%, up 43 points, but that's good enough for a record high. The S&P 500 closing out right around 6711. That's a record high. The Nasdaq Composite up 95 points, or 0.4%. The Nasdaq 100 up more than 120 points, or 0.5% for a record high. And the Russell 2000 adding about 0.25% here on the day, up 6 points, Carol.
Yeah, it definitely feels bullish, right, Romaine? But if you look at the S&P 500, you actually had more names in the index lower in today's session. 284 to the downside, Katie. 218 gaining ground, 1 unchanged.
Well, it's a similar story when you take a look at the circle and the sectors, because you had more sectors in the red than you did in the green. You can see that right now, that tech was a big contributor there to the upside. Healthcare also having a great day. Utilities getting in on the action. But then you take a look at what didn't do too hot. Communication services, financials, materials. Your big loser on the day, but up overall for the benchmark.
Okay, what was really hot was Lithium Americas. Man, this one was up about 23%. Shares rallying after U.S. Secretary of Energy Chris on Bloomberg Television saying that the government, U.S. government.
Where?
Did you see the byline?
It was on the close.
Did you guys see the byline
Katie
on that story?
and Romaine Bostick.
It was
breaking news right here.
I thought that would be enough.
Did you guys do it?
I thought that would be enough to get Carol not to do this story today.
Did I bury the lead? Oops.
Yeah.
You buried the byline, but we'll allow
guys,
it.
It's nice to see you get one.
Like to
well
make
done.
ourselves.
All right. Anyway, the U.S. Energy Secretary, talking to Katie and Romaine, saying that the U.S. government agreed to acquire a 5% stake in the company. So well done, well done. Just 1 week ago, you might remember, is when the story started floating around, and that's when you saw that share price in this name jump almost 100%. It's up about 130% in the last week. All right, I'm going to jump over. Did you talk to the Nike CEO today by any chance?
No, that wasn't us.
Actually.
Well, there's always tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, so Nike up about 6.25% in today's session. We broke down, of course.
Accepted.
I love competition. Their earnings coming out yesterday after the close. Nike reported first quarter revenue that beat the average analyst estimates, a sign its focus around specific sports such as running and basketball is starting to pay off. They're also working back with retailers. We talked to our Poonam Goyal about this, and that is a good thing for the company.
I like Poonam.
Yeah.
I love her. She's like incredible. Pfizer, we talked about drug makers, man. On a tear, the group finishing up about 5% overall. Pfizer, certainly a beneficiary of the move up. This is coming. We know that Wall Street had long feared that policies were going to come out of the Trump administration that would impose aggressive drug pricing policies, but those fears largely laid to rest after Pfizer cut that deal with the White House. But we're also hearing it's going to play out to other drug makers. And as I mentioned, we did just see on the Bloomberg crossing about a half an hour or so ago from Politico that the president is said to be delaying pharma tariffs to negotiate those drug prices. This is coming from a White House official. And then you mentioned GoodRx, which was on another network. And that one, I'm sorry, Finley, I didn't tell you about this one, but it was up about 19% in today's session. One more name I'm just going to throw in there.
Is this 5 or 6?
I lost count. AST Space Mobile, I just want to point it out. On a tear, you're going to care. We're going to actually be talking to the president tomorrow. Up 16%, announcing late yesterday about success with their satellites. They are deploying satellites. Could be a competitor to someday, maybe to SpaceX. Barclays raising its price target to 60 from 37. They are upbeat on the company. So anyway, catch our interview with the president tomorrow. Cheap tease, but I'm going to do it.
I will tune into that.
You should.
All right, well, tune into these decliners, please. The worst performer in the S&P 500 today, Corteva, down 9.1%. The company fell after it announced plans to separate into 2 independent companies, and it looks like they're failing to convince investors it's going to deliver any value. This separation is expected to be completed in the second half of next year. Investors are worried that the separation creates more volatility for the pesticide business, with shares falling today by 9.1%. Cal-Maine Foods, they do eggs, and they are down 1.2% today. This after the company posted first quarter profit and sales that disappointed. It turns out we're just buying fancier eggs. Did you hear this?
No, go on.
Consumers are looking for fancier egg varieties, cage-free, pasture-raised, and organic. They're considered more sustainable. There's a quirk, though. With egg pricing and long-term contracts, so sometimes specialty varieties can actually be cheaper than conventional ones.
They are.
Interesting. I just buy egg whites in a box.
I got a guy in Brooklyn, and they're cheaper than in stores.
Is it pasture, backyard-raised Brooklyn eggs?
No.
I don't know. He just shows up in a van and on the side of the park. So who knows?
You just get more and more interesting.
The eggs are falling off the truck.
He says they're all free range.
Hey, let's finish on Peloton, down 3.7% today. This after the company raised prices on hardware and membership fees and a product overhaul. New versions of the bike and the tread with a silver screen, swivel screen, excuse me. Price increases include an average bump around 11% for hardware and 19% for subscription fees. Mark Gurman said investors concerned that maybe you could see some churn with these price increases when it comes to those membership prices.
All right, let's take a quick look in yields. We actually did see a lot of buying activity, primarily led on the shorter end of the curve. That pushed yields lower across the curve, 7 basis points on the 2-year yield, about 5 basis points on your 10-year yield. And we should point out, if you run the work function on your Bloomberg terminal, you will see now that the conviction for further rate cuts this year is now a near certainty. The market pricing in at least one cut as an almost certainty at the end of October when that next meeting happens, and another one almost certainty when the Fed meets for its last meeting on December 10th.
Super interesting narrative in the market, certainly today. Hey, in terms of interesting stories that caught our attention, we talk about celebrity endorsements and what that can do for a product. Well, Serena Williams, she has done an ad campaign with Roe, and as a result, it has definitely, sparked demand for the company's weight loss program.
Yeah, the company's CEO said the company has seen an elevated and consistent ability for Williams' story to resonate and drive traffic since this ad aired in August. Consumers should expect to see more from Roe and Williams, which have a multi-year partnership after the campaign led to a spike in web traffic and an influx of new customers. I always wonder, how much are these celebrities paid for partnerships like this?
Maybe the question is how much has she invested in it? And of course, we know, Alex Ohanian's connection to Roe as well. But it does sort of seem reminiscent of what we saw some years back when Oprah teamed up with Weight Watchers. She lost all that weight and then revealed that she was on the board and an actual investor. It was obviously a public stock, but you saw just how much people gravitated to that company and to that stock. And I know Roe isn't publicly traded, but you wonder if you'll see a similar type of activity.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say I see their ads all over the PATH stations. Charles Barkley, I think, is also signed up there.
Are those ads going to still be allowed with the new restrictions coming from Health and Human Services? That's the question I have.
It's a big question, and I don't have the answer. But I do want to talk quickly about Amazon here. I thought this was interesting. Amazon launching a private label food brand, Amazon Grocery. Amazon, I know that we only care about cloud when it comes to the stock, but they have been pushing so hard into food. They have that partnership with Winn-Dixie. They also have been expanding their food delivery, and now they have a private label food brand. So there you go. Amazon taking taking over.
Can I just tell you, I find this confusing because I feel like Amazon has sort of gone down this road. I'm talking specifically about their food and grocery strategy.
Yeah, you're not the only one.
And there's just
confused.
so many brands and so many divisions. I remember sometimes you try to order something on Amazon that's food related, but you have to do it through Fresh, or you can only do it through this and that.
Yes.
I mean, come on, guys, just put it all together.
Well, they're combining Amazon Fresh and Happy Belly into one collection.
You're not the only one who's confused. We do order our groceries on Amazon.
Can
we
you get
use
Jassy on the
Whole
phone for me?
Foods.
I got some advice for him.
So if you open the app and you actually click
cheaper than a
groceries,
McKinsey consultant.
there are 4 different places you can order from in the app.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So I
just
think
makes
you're not
like-
the only one who's confused.
Yeah, I just give up.
You guys are cranky, man.
You know,
This is why I get my eggs from a guy on the street corner.
That's true. Exactly.
It's less confusing.
Exactly. Bring on the farmers markets too.